Hello everyone, it's Danny Wilson from Boxing Science and welcome to this workshop, Hydration for Boxing. Now we're here with Callum Bearder. We're going to go through this first section which is going to be practical. It's going to be telling you how to assess your hydration within a boxing session, and then we're going to go into some more theoretical stuff, some practical tools that you can use to help hydrate your training and rehydrate in between sessions. Now when we're talking about dehydration, a lot of people in boxing, a lot of people think about dehydrating to get to the weight. However, dehydration can cause negative effects on your training performance. A 2% in dehydration, so that's a 1 or 2 kilo reduction in body mass through sweat, can have a negative effect on physical performance and mental performance. Physical performance, it can affect your energy levels, your immunity, and this can affect like how prone to illness or injury you are. Also your mental performance, so your cognitive function, it can actually have an effect on your concentration levels, your action skills. If you're talking about when you're in the boxing ring, if you're seeing a 2% decrease in body mass through sweat, an hour into your session, and let's say you're doing sparring or pads, this is going to negatively affect your performance as well in between sessions as well. So if you do a big boxing session in the morning, then you're coming in doing conditioning and doing your strength training in the afternoon, this will be affected if you're not rehydrating right. So what we found with boxers at Boxing Science, that they have a sweat rate between 1.5 and 3 litres per hour. So this means that actually in a 1.5 hour session, the boxer could get reduce their body mass by 3 to 5%, so it can be dehydrated by 3 to 5%. This is nearly going to double to where we're negatively affecting performance. So it's a really key thing to do is to make sure that you're rehydrating. And the main thing that we need to do to make sure that we're not doing any guesswork is do the assessments, assess your sweat, and this is what we're going to do with Callum today. And there is like posh labs where you can actually test your sweat rate, and you can test your sodium within that sweat rate as well. This costs money and also the facilities as well. However, you can start having an impact on your training by just doing this simple exercise. So all you need to do is weigh yourself in before training, take a note of your fluid intake during training, and then we're going to take the post body mass. And then you can work out your sweat rate based on how long you've been training, look at the net loss, and come up with some predictions of basically what you're likely to lose in an hour and a half training session and 2 hour training session as well. Okay, so we're going to kickstart by just getting Callum weighed in, weighing his drink, and then we're going to kick on with his workout. So we're going to start off by getting Callum changed, and to get a true assessment, obviously he needs to take off his clothes, his attire and his boxing boots. So it's 86.15 kilos, okay, so we're going to make a note of that and then we'll have a look at how much he loses during the session. Okay, to get a true assessment of his body fluid, make sure that you're testing his, measuring out his water. So that's 835, so make a note of that, work out the difference, and you can look at his fluid intake for the session.
Step back down, go. So in good form with these, look up in the air. Boom, boom. Good ball. Them elbows, go and count one more.
post session weight. $84.5. So fully finished that, and that's 98. Okay, so that was a great session with Callum down here at Sheffield City ABC. We've just been kicked out by Brendan. He's a busy man, he's gone on to his next session. How was that session for you?
Yeah, tough for an hour, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so we entwined this workshop, the hydration workshop, with the red zone condition for boxing. So if you haven't watched that yet, take a look at what Callum's just done. In terms of his hydration, we've just seen him get reweighed in. So as a reminder, 86.15 kilograms is how he started, and then at the end it was 84.55. We calculated that he drank a total of 0.7 litres, so that's 700 millilitres, and we took this off the total amount of weight loss. We added that on to the total amount of weight loss. So his 1.6 was the amount that he lost within the session. So we added on the 0.7 to see what his sweat rate was for the session. That was 2.4. His session was an hour, like Callum just mentioned. So we worked out that his sweat rate was 2.4 litres per hour, which sits him right towards the top end of the boxers that we've seen at Boxing Science in terms of sweat rate. And that session, you probably say that your core temperature there, as in your body temperature, wouldn't be necessarily as high because empty gym, middle of the day, you're not sparring, you normally get hotter, so sometimes your sweat rate might be a little bit higher. So in terms of a pad session, you can have this in the bank, right, on normal pad sessions you can create yourself an average of having 2.4, but maybe in sparring or something like that, it might be a little bit different. So based off this, in terms of your water already going in and 1.6, you will need to rehydrate by 1.5 times the body mass that you've lost. Okay, so you've lost 1.6. That makes the rehydration target at 2.4 litres. Now to do this, you want to try and do this before the next session. So if you've got a session in 3 hours time, you haven't today, you finished for the day. But in terms of rehydrating, you'd try and aim to have this within the next 2 hours.
Yeah, 2.4 litres.
Yeah. If you've got a higher target and you've only got a short amount of time, let's say this was an hour and a half session and you had a bigger target to hit, maybe like putting in some electrolytes in there as well. As well with the sweat, you also can lose sodium, so electrolytes are really important. Also to have like a little bit of carbs with that, so isotonic sports drinks, having that low amount of carbs to make sure that reabsorbing fluid is not just going to pass through and come through urine. So for an example, so that was an hour session. Cam said it was tough in that hour session, but let's say if it was training for an hour and a half, normally your session's about an hour and a half.
At least,
at least, sometimes over 2 hours. So based off this sweat rate, Callum would have lost 3.6 kilos, or 3.6 litres of water through sweat, and that means that you need a net of 5.4 litres in order to rehydrate. Now, if you go for 2 hours, probably your sweat rate would decline. Okay, so if you do a big session like that, the 2 hours, make sure you're doing, like I said, create yourself an average for the long sessions and the shorter sessions. You could see, based off that sweat rate, a 4.8 kilos lost, which is
in 2 hours,
in 2 hours. But obviously you'd be drinking through that, so you won't be like getting on scales and suddenly you're down to your fighting weight. But it's giving you indication. This is why I encourage boxers to get their morning weight, morning body mass, instead of taking the body mass after training, because these are the numbers that you're likely to see in a lot of boxers, and not giving you a true reflection of what your body mass actually is. So what you would do here, in like 5.4, let's say if you're doing your strength conditioning in 3 hours time, you struggle to get 5.4 litres in. So what you need to do is to make sure that you're preloading, so making sure that you're hydrated coming into the session. And I'm going to go through some of the top tips during this theory section. So thanks for now, Cal. Cheers for that. Cheers for being a willing participant once again.
Guinea pig.
Yeah, guinea pig, putting your body through the pain barrier in the name of science. So in that clip there was a great example on how to do an assessment for your sweat rate during boxing activity. Now the main reason why we did that is to highlight how much you can dehydrate yourself during boxing. And I started off the presentation by talking about this 2% dehydration marker. This is a figure that we found across a lot of studies to be the point where physical and mental performance can be negatively impacted through being dehydrated. From a physical standpoint, 2% dehydration can cause increased body temperature and heart rate and a reduction in plasma volume. This can affect how energy is managed at the muscle cell, which can end up reducing our ability to work at high intensities, our endurance, and also reduce our ability to produce force. These are all important things when we're looking towards the back end of the session, making sure that we're still able to perform at high intensities, working them bursts, and be able to deliver fast and hard punches. And then from a mental performance standpoint, 2% dehydration can cause reduction in cognitive function, reaction time, decision making, and concentration. These are all important factors when you're thinking about boxing performance and in particular sparring. Like I said, this 2% figure can actually happen within an hour. And let's say if you've warmed up, done some bag and pad work before you go into some sparring, you could already be 2% dehydrated as you step into the ring. And it's really important that we keep this figure in mind, but also the fact that boxers, based off the data that we've taken at Boxing Science in terms of their sweat rates, we can expect a reduction in body mass of around 3 to 5% during a 1.5 hour boxing session. So this is looking at probably coming up to double of that 2% marker there where we're reducing performance. So it's really vital. Hydration in boxing is really vital based on these numbers. So here are our top 5 tips for hydration. Assess your sweat loss and urine colour. Use electrolytes. Add carbohydrates. Pre-session hydration and morning hydration. And these, we're going to start going into these in the next few slides. So, assessments. Make sure you assess your sweat rate across numerous sessions, as these can differ under different circumstances. So, as you've seen in the practical example with Callum, he did an hour bag and pad session, but his core temperature could increase with the intensity of the session. Let's say if you're doing sparring, it's more likely to sweat more during sparring and sweat more during longer sessions as well. Over longer sessions, the sweat rate might differ. So let's say if you do an hour and a half or 2 hours, you might not keep that same sweat rate per hour as you did in the first hour. So it's important to have a collection of data across numerous sessions to get a good idea of how your sweat rate changes. Also seasonal. I know for a fact at Sheffield City ABC, if in the summer the gym is much hotter, and then when obviously it's colder in the winter. Not a lot of boxing gyms have temperature control, so make sure that you're getting a good assessment of your sweat rate throughout the year. Also, adding to that point, and something that we mentioned in Callum's session, is how busy the gym is. At Sheffield City ABC, for example, sometimes we might have 30 or 40 people training all at once, and the room is red hot no matter what time of the year it is. Whereas obviously when it's empty, like when Callum was just training there doing a one-to-one session, it's very different. So if you feel like, you know, you don't have to have a log of, you know, when there's 10 people in the gym or 40 people in the gym or something like that. Maybe just think, right, if it's a busy session, make sure you're assessing your sweat rate for then. But try and get an average of sparring and longer sessions, write them down, and then you could get a good assessment of your sweat rate, and you can prepare for your hydration tactics around these different sessions. Keep track of your urine colour to monitor hydration levels. You can get access to a chart online that will be able to give you feedback. Also, osmolality checks are encouraged. So if you've got a machine that can test your osmolality or your urine, this is encouraged. And here's your target range. Electrolytes. The reason why electrolytes are so beneficial is because this helps you absorb the fluid you consume. It can support nerve and muscle function, and can replenish electrolytes lost in sweat, such as sodium and potassium. Just be careful when you're selecting what electrolytes you use, because especially if you're a professional athlete, you want to make sure that it's got the informed sport. This means that it's batch tested, and if you're getting drug tested, that this wouldn't affect your testing. However, if you're getting supplements that don't have this sticker, don't mean that they're all spiked or got traces of substances, but it increases the risk. It's always better if you get informed sport and it's batch tested products. And the reason why we encourage you to get electrolytes in is because to drink a lot of water, if you're trying to rehydrate too much or do some pre-session hydration, basically your body will just want to flush that water out through urine. So the electrolytes will help you hold on to that water and make sure that it's been put to good use to help improve performance. Add carbohydrates. The reason why is because this will help you absorb the fluid better, so you can rehydrate quicker and more effectively. So have like something like carb gels, skim milk or milkshake per session. Just make sure that the carbohydrate intake isn't too high, because this will affect fluid absorption and could cause GI distress. Pre-session hydrate or during the session hydration strategies are really important. The reason why, and this is something that I mentioned with Callum, is because if he sweats out 3 kilos, 3.5 kilos in a session, it's going to be very hard for him to hit his hydration targets before the next session. So making sure that he's hydrated before will help not only help his rehydration process, but also will keep him performing well within the session. Like I said, it could hit that 2% dehydration marker halfway through his session. So this can have a negative impact on performance. But if he has pre-session hydration strategies, this will help him stay hydrated during his workout. Great things to have pre and during the session: coconut water, isotonic sports drinks with a pinch of salt, so that replaces the sodium that's lost through sweating, and popping an electrolyte tablet in your water. Try and aim for 1 to 1.5 litres in a 2-hour window pre-session, along with electrolytes to help promote a positive fluid balance. And during the session, try and drink 1 litre to 1.5 litres, just frequently sipping, but not all at once, because you don't want to drink too much, then wanting to go to the toilet during session or feeling bloated or carrying water. Callum drank about 800ml in his session, I would say to try and increase that to just over a litre and make sure it's sipping consistently through the session. And this is a really important thing, to make sure you're hydrated in the morning. The reason why is that you've had such a long time without consuming fluid. You know, let's say you have 8 hours sleep. Let's say you have 8 hours sleep, you could go 8 to 10 hours without drinking. And maybe if you don't already drink in the morning, and you say like you have a sip on tea or coffee or whatever, it could be like 12 hours before you consume quite a lot of water. So this is quite a long time without drink. You know, imagine if you're going through the day and you're going from 8 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night, not having a drink, you become really thirsty. So it's really important that we get this morning hydration strategies in. Also, you can be dehydrated because whilst you sleep, your body's using fluid to help restore the cells in your body. So not only do we go a long time without drinking and consuming fluid, we're also using up the fluid that's in our body already. So we can be really dehydrated. So morning hydration is really important. Our tips would be to drink 1 litre in the first 1 to 2 hours of the day at frequent intervals to promote positive fluid balance. So not just down 1 litre straight away, just have sips of 1 litre in the first 2 hours at least. So let's just have a recap of Callum's numbers. And this is done with our hydration tracker. And if you look in the section below, you can actually download a copy of this and start using this in your gym. We want to encourage you to start doing these tests, and having the hydration tracker will give you detailed feedback on your sweat rate and the level of dehydration that you're likely to lose during an hour and a half, and 2 hour sessions. So with Callum, he had a net loss of 1.6 kilos, which is 2%. But if he didn't drink any water, this would have been a 3% dehydration in just 1 hour. So let's say if he did a 1.5 hour session, his sweat rate would have been 3.6 litres, and this would have given him a 4% dehydration. So this is double that 2% marker that we said earlier. So hydration strategies for Callum are going to be really important going forward. And our advice to Callum, and also to start assessing his sweat rate across numerous sessions, and keep a log and make sure that he's applying the necessary hydration strategies tailored to different individual sessions. So that brings us to the end of the workshop. Just to summarise, physical and mental performance can be impaired by 2% dehydration. This is something that we want to avoid during boxing. However, we know that boxers can reach 3 to 5% dehydration following boxing sessions, which makes hydration strategies really important to follow. So boxers should start assessing their hydration and their sweat rates during boxing sessions, and start to follow our hydration tips to create effective and accurate hydration strategies. On a final note, this is something that we say quite a lot. Master the things that take no talent. So what can we do that literally takes zero talent to execute? And hydration and monitoring your dehydration takes literally zero talent, but can have a massive impact on your training performance. improve your training performance, you can become a better athlete, you can become fitter, faster, stronger, and you can improve your athletic potential. This all links together to help you become a better boxer. Let's start putting some of this into action. Assess 3 sessions per week for the next 2 weeks. Start collecting your data and start to use a hydration tracker by downloading this in the section below, and start today. Let's start acting on this now to help boost your performance. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you on the next workshop.